Got a quiz coming up on Around the World in 80 Days? Well, you are in exactly the right place. We're about to do a deep dive into Jules Verne's classic adventure, hitting all the key characters, the insane race against the clock plot, and, of course, that final twist that changes absolutely everything.
Everything, and I mean everything in this story kicks off with this number, £20,000. Now you have to understand this wasn't just some casual bet. This was half of Phileas Fogg's entire fortune. He was willing to stake it all on the wild idea that he could circle the entire globe in just 80 days. Back in 1872, that was just an unbelievable amount of money and an even more unbelievable wager.
Okay, so to make sure you are totally prepped for that quiz, we've broken this down into 5 key parts. We'll start with the bet, then we'll meet Fogg's friends and enemies, tackle all the crazy obstacles he ran into, race to the finish line, and finally uncover what the story is really all about.
So let's jump right into Section 1, a gentleman's wager. Before we can even think about the journey, we really need to get inside the head of the man who made the bet and understand the absolutely audacious challenge that set this whole thing in motion.
First things first, let's meet our guy, Phileas Fogg. This man is, well, he's like a human clock. He lives his life with this almost mechanical precision at number 7 Savile Row. To give you an idea of how rigid he is, he once fired a servant just because his shaving water was 2 degrees too cold. He is the walking, talking embodiment of Victorian order and routine.
The whole story really gets going at the Reform Club. A newspaper article sparks a debate, and Fogg's buddies all insist the journey is impossible. But Fogg, cool as a cucumber, just says the unforeseen does not exist. And that leads to the legendary wager. Now pay super close attention to the details here. The exact departure and return times are classic quiz questions, so you'll want to know those.
All right, on to Section 2. A trip like this isn't just about places on a map, right? It's about the people. And Fogg's adventure is shaped by 2 huge personalities. One is a loyal but kind of chaotic sidekick, and the other is a relentless enemy hot on his trail.
So Fogg isn't traveling alone. He's got his brand new French valet, Jean Passepartout. And these two could not be more different. You've got Fogg, the super precise, buttoned-up Englishman, and then you have Passepartout, the passionate, impulsive Frenchman who just wants to enjoy the ride. It's this total opposites attract dynamic that creates so much of the story's charm and, honestly, a lot of its problems, too.
But, there's a pretty big problem. Meet the story's antagonist, Detective Fix. He's a Scotland Yard detective, and he is 100% convinced that Fogg's crazy wager is just a smokescreen for a notorious bank robber trying to make a getaway.
So why is Fix so sure he's got his man? Well, you can kind of see his logic. Fogg's sudden departure, the bag stuffed with cash, his mysterious personality, it all adds up in Fix's mind. His entire goal is just to slow Fogg down, to keep him in one place long enough for an arrest warrant to show up from London. And that's what creates the central conflict of the whole book.
Now we're moving into Section 3, Global Obstacles. Remember how Fogg said the unforeseen does not exist? Well, his journey basically becomes one long string of unforeseen events that test his patience, his ingenuity, and definitely his wallet.
Okay, here's a classic quiz question for you. So they're crossing India, everything's going according to plan, and then they discover a 50-mile gap in the railway line. It wasn't on the map, it wasn't in the schedule, the plan hits a brick wall. So what do?
His solution is as simple as it is completely over the top. He buys an elephant. For £2,000. Yeah, you heard me, an elephant. This is such a key moment because it shows Fogg isn't just a robot who follows a schedule. He is incredibly resourceful and will literally use his fortune as a tool to smash through any obstacle in his way.
But this trip isn't just about speed. A really critical moment comes when Fogg chooses his honor over his schedule to rescue Adada, a young woman who's about to be sacrificed. This is a huge deal for his character. It shows us there's a real heart beating under that cold, precise exterior. He proves he values a human life more than winning his bet.
And that brings us to Section 4, the race to the finish. After traveling all the way around the world, the entire wager comes down to this one last, frantic dash back to London. It's totally down to the wire.
So they make it back to England. They're on home soil. And then, disaster. Detective Fix finally gets his warrant and arrests Fogg. It looks like it's all over. The wager is lost right at the finish line.
So Fogg does get freed, once they realized the real robber was caught days ago. But the delay was catastrophic. He gets back to London, looks at the clock, and realizes he's arrived at 8:50 p.m., 5 minutes too late. In his mind, he's completely ruined. He's lost everything.
But that brings us to our final section, winning more than money. Because this is a Jules Verne novel, the story isn't over yet. There's one tiny, crucial detail that everyone overlooked, and it changes absolutely everything.
You're going to want to remember this term for your quiz, the international date line. See, by traveling constantly to the east, Fogg was literally racing toward the sunrise, making each day just a little bit shorter. And over an 80-day journey, all those little bits of time, they add up. And here it is, the brilliant twist. He didn't lose the bet. Because you traveled eastward, he gained a full day. He thought it was Saturday, the final day of the wager, but it was actually Friday. He had a whole 24 hours to spare, and he had absolutely no idea.
And he figured out by complete accident. Fogg sends Passepartout to arrange his wedding to Aouda for what they think is Monday. But the priest tells him, you can't do that, tomorrow's Sunday. Passepartout realizes the mistake, sprints back to Fogg, and Fogg just bursts into the Reform Club in the absolute nick of time. We're talking seconds to spare.
So let's think about this. Yes, he won the 20,000 pounds, but he spent almost all of it along the way. His true winnings were so much more than money. He found love, he found loyalty, and he transformed from this cold, calculating machine into a feeling human being. And that's really the core theme you'll want to remember.
The very last lines of the novel just say it all. What did he really get from all this? A charming woman who made him the happiest of men. Truly, would you not for less make the tour of the world? He set out to win a bet about time and math, but he ended up winning a life full of human connection.
And that leaves us with this final thought, something perfect for an essay question. What was the real victory here? Was it proving a point about schedules and modern technology? Or was it about all the unpredictable, messy, human things he found along the way? That's our explainer on Around the World in 80 Days. Good luck with your quiz. You're going to do great.